Have you ever known somebody who seemingly has everything together, where it's like almost everything they touch turns to gold? Whereas in the same sense, there are people who work hard, they grind all the time, but they never seem to get a break. Well, I'm Dr. Joel Thiemann, and today I'm going to talk with you about habits, because you know as well as I do that habits can either be good or bad, and they can certainly impact your life. Now, the reason it's important to understand about habits is you've probably heard the expression, we're creatures of habit. In other words, we tend to do the same thing over and over again, whether it be the way we sleep, the way we sit, the way we drive, the way we work, the position of our work, the way we think, and the way we speak. That's just kind of the way we are. We're creatures of habit. And so the more we can start to fine-tune the habits that we have, the more we can start to move in the direction that we really desire within our minds and within our hearts. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, if you've ever known those people who seem to have it, quote, all together, so to speak, the question would really come down to, why is that? What's so different about them? And is it something that you can do or learn to be able to apply in your own life for greater success, particularly when it comes to the habit of goal setting? You see, one thing that I've seen as I've studied successful people is the fact that many of these people will have certain patterns that they have in their life. In fact, many high achievers will actually know from a young age something that they want to happen in their life, something that they want to achieve. So in other words, they may want to be a world-class athlete. Maybe they want to have a business empire, or they want to start a family and be the world's best mother. Whatever the case may be, they have that implanted in their mind and their heart, and then they live their life working towards that. You have to remember though, success, as I heard one person say one time, is having a plan of what you want your life to look like and then working towards that. So in other words, you would have to first decide, just like I would have to and everybody, what would you describe the perfect life to be like? And once you've done that, what action steps can you put in place to be able to walk in that direction, so to speak? You see, I think you would agree that we all have a different idea of the perfect life. So once you establish for yourself what you see or desire your life to look like, the next step at that particular point would then to start applying specific goals. Specific goals that can be both short-term as well as long-term. Interestingly, if you were to study these high achievers and successful people, one of the patterns that you'll find that many of these folks will have when it comes to their goals, especially long-term, is the fact that they will then oftentimes, once they've established that and they have a clear-cut written down goal, they then begin to reverse engineer to see what they can do today to be able to move in the direction towards what they want to achieve at some part later in life. In other words, they tend to work then backwards until they achieve that particular goal. After all, you don't just wake up one day and say, you know what, this afternoon I'm going to play in the Super Bowl. You get the idea. So I like to go over some just basics of how to set goals and what some examples of goals would look like. But before I do that, I want to talk with you just briefly about what happens if you do or if you don't establish some goals for your own life. Think about it like this for just a moment. If you were to take a boat with a captain in that boat and you place that boat in the middle of the ocean, yet give that captain no coordinates, no destination, where would that boat end up? It could end up anywhere. The same thing holds true if you were to just jump in the car and drive for 3 hours. If you have a specific goal, that 3 hours of driving will be well spent because you're likely to reach a particular destination. But in the same sense, you're going to end up somewhere if you don't have that goal. The question is, are you going to end up really where you want to be? I sometimes wonder with certain folks how they tend to be unhappy all the time or depressed if those people have goals or not. And it may sound a little bit crazy, but think about it for just a moment. If you don't have a particular goal and you're kind of drifting through life, if you will, to where you end up somewhere but never where you want to be, inside you're never content and you're always in a state of almost like dis-ease inside, whether it's mentally, emotionally. But the question is, could it be because you never really had an established goal to work towards and move in that right direction? So you're always ending up somewhere, but it's never in the right direction. It's never at the right place with the right people and so on. You understand what I'm saying there? You see, when it comes to setting goals, it really, for me, comes down to two things: consciousness and focus. In other words, having goals that are concrete and written down is kind of like going through life with Google Maps. In other words, you always are you have a path to keep you focused on your destination. And even when those roadblocks of life kind of come up to where there's certain things that get in the way of that particular goal, you still have the ability to then course correct. That even though it may slow you down, it may not be in the perfect pace of how you originally planned it out, that's okay as long as that destination is still set, you're still heading in the right direction, and even if it's not in the time that you originally set out to, you're still going the right way, and there's victory in that. Now, the thing to always keep in mind is the fact that goals can both be long-term and, of course, short-term. The real key, however, is to be specific when it comes to those goals. Take, for example, somebody who says, I want to lose weight. Well, you lose a pound, you lost weight. I heard Tony Robbins once say that. And so as far as that's concerned, you've met that particular goal. Don't do that. Be specific. In other words, say, I want to lose 30 pounds in the next 90 days. But don't just say that or have a specific end date by Christmas, by Thanksgiving, by Labor Day, or whatever the case may be. But then put in the action steps in order to make that happen, whether you break it down per month or per week or even that particular day. So in order to do that, this week I'm going to do this. In fact, today I'm going to do this. You get the idea. Another simple goal would be that of going on a vacation. If you just say, I want to go on a vacation, where do you want to go? Who do you want to go with? Are you going to drive? Are you going to fly? How long do you want to be there? How much do you need to save? Do you have that money? How much is it going to cost? You know what I mean? If you take off work, you understand what I'm saying with that. Another thing would be a health goal. So if a person says, you know what, I want to get off blood pressure medication. I'd like to do that within the next 90 days. Well, how are you going to make that happen? Because if we don't have a specific measurable goal with action steps to be able to get there, these things can be little baby steps in the right direction. But otherwise, we live in this cross our fingers kind of approach of life, and we end up never getting there. And so we get all discouraged and we almost give up because we've never taken the right steps. You know, first and foremost, by having a clear vision of what you want, setting in place these simple action steps, and then moving in that direction day after day until you reach that goal. Long-term goals can be a little bit different because now we're thinking further in the future. So although a 90-day goal is a great goal, a long-term goal may be something along the lines of, I want to reach a certain level of status when it comes to my career. Or maybe I want to retire at the age of 55 years of age. Well, use that for an example. Everybody has a different idea if it's thought out and plans. But the reality is that if a person wants to retire within a certain amount of time, there's a lot to that. But the question comes down to, what lifestyle do you want to live now? What lifestyle do you want to live then? How much is it going to cost you now to be able to live the lifestyle that you desire now and then? And then if you look at that, okay, so if that's the case, then how much do you need to make each year? How much do you need to save each year? How much is that going to be when you get to that point of retirement? You understand there's a lot of factors that can go into that, but these are the very factors, whether it be a top athlete. You don't just wake up one day, as I mentioned previously, and say, this afternoon I'm going to play a Super Bowl. I'm going to play in the Super Bowl. But instead, it starts off with deciding, what sport do you love? What are you passionate about? What can you do to be the best athlete possible? What level of training is it going to take for me to commit to? Is it every day? Is it twice a day? Is it 3 times a day? What do I have to do in terms of my thinking to be a world-class athlete? What about my endurance? And what about my strength training? What about my nutrition? And so on and so forth. So when we think about these different goals, you then want to once you have a long-term goal, it's once again reverse engineer and work backwards. So maybe you break that 20-year goal down into then 10 years and then 5 years, and you break it down into a 1-year goal and then maybe even a 90-day goal, and then say, what am I going to do today? So if I want to save a certain amount of money, that means that today I have to make a certain amount of money. I have to put back a certain amount of money this paycheck. Because if I don't have that consciousness or focus, as I mentioned earlier, the next thing you know, 1 week slips by, you didn't do it. Another week slips by, you didn't do it. And the next thing you know, you say you want to retire when you're 55 years of age to live a certain lifestyle and travel the world or enjoy your grandkids or whatever the case may be. But now because you maybe didn't have the right health goals to parlay with your financial retirement goals, then you end up in a state of crisis and you can't live the life that you wanted. You don't save enough money. You understand what I'm saying. The point with that is to be able to have clear, concrete goals, but don't just stop there. Write them down. And then the successful patterns of people before us and people all around us, what they often will tend to do is not only have clear-cut goals written down, but you'll find that many of these people will review their goals and speak them sometimes 2 to 3 times every single day. Another goal that oftentimes is overlooked is maybe what do you want to contribute or give to this world to make it a better place? In other words, maybe I want to have a goal of I want to bless a certain church or ministry. Maybe it has to do with I want to, not just financially, but maybe I'm going to contribute so much time, effort, prayer, partnership, or whatever it may be in order to be able to help other people out. That sometimes brings really a lot of joy, but it also helps you in fulfilling the bigger picture of your goal overall. So the main thing is to always, first and foremost, have a clear-cut goal. Write it down. Look it over 2 to 3 times a day. Speak it out loud. Revise it, update it, and modify it as you see necessary. And always keep the big picture in mind. I know you're going to be blessed and amazed as you see this manifest in your life, to see how setting these goals will help you also to maintain better focus, and this consciousness will keep you on the path. So that way, as life does happen, and it will, at least you can stay the course correct when necessary. Again, I'm Dr. Joel Feeman, here to empower you with truth and knowledge so you know exactly what it takes to be healthy, body, mind, and spirit. Until next time, God bless.